So when I was chronically ill, I was coming out of a bedbound state. I remember I was in my kitchen, I was making a smoothie, specifically with coconut milk, and I spilled the entire can of coconut milk on my counter and on my floor. And I was just distraught. I sat there in the floor, milk everywhere, crying, just in this rage and panic. And just literally over spilled coconut milk. And then I kept thinking to myself, like, I was the worst person alive. How could I do this? Like, this is ridiculous. I'm an adult. I shouldn't make a mess. What is wrong with me? Why can't I handle normal things? Why am I like this? Why am I so upset? But here is what I know now, and this is what I need you to understand as well, is it wasn't truly about the spilled milk. It wasn't about any of that. So if you are someone who has ever snapped at your kids over something small, or you cried because someone asked what's for dinner, or you had a full meltdown over spilled milk, or you went into a complete rage spiral over one more text notification, one more email, one more phone call, or you felt like you were losing your mind over things that shouldn't bother you, this is for you today, because you are absolutely not crazy. You have been through a lot. Your nervous system is overwhelmed and it's completely maxed out. So this is not you being too sensitive or just overreacting to things. And today I'm going to explain to you why those small things feel so massive when our nervous systems are in overdrive and dysregulated, what's happening in your body, and the one practice that can give your capacity back. So I want you to imagine your nervous system is like this little cup, this mason jar, okay? Every single stressor that you experience, add some water or some tea to your cup, okay? Your phone dinging with notifications, making a decision about what's for dinner, someone touching you when you're already maxed out, touched out, background noise from the TV, emotional labor of managing everyone's feelings, remembering everyone's schedules, everyone's birthdays, your own physical symptoms and flare-ups that no one else can see. Your cup is now 95% full. What are you going to do? It's almost completely full, 95%. Just say it's up here at the rim. That is you every single day. Okay, you wake up and your cup is already at 95% before anyone even asks you for anything. Before you even get out of bed, you are already almost at your maximum capacity. So one more drop and it overflows. So when one more small thing happens, your husband leaves a dish on the counter, your kid whines about breakfast, you get one more text message, you're late for work, you're late for school, someone asks you one more question, that is not a small thing anymore. Okay, that is the drop that makes everything start to overflow from your cup. And then you explode and you shut down and you cry and you rage, not because you're overreacting to the small thing, that one little drop of water, but because your nervous system has been operating at maximum capacity for so long that there's literally no room left. So let's talk about what's actually happening in your body when your cup is this full. So your brain has two main parts that we're going to talk about, okay? It has the prefrontal cortex. That is your thinking brain. It rationalizes, it handles patience, it makes the big decisions. It is, all of the impulse control, the perspective, all of the things that help you respond calmly and with thought and logic, right? And then you have your amygdala, okay? The amygdala is kind of in the middle. This is the primal part of your brain, and it's your alarm system, okay? So it detects threats, it detects triggers, and sets off your fight or flight response. So when your nervous system cup is full, here's what happens. That prefrontal cortex goes offline, which means your thinking brain literally shuts down. So bye-bye to the rational decisions, to all of the healthy decisions, to the patience, to the control, to your clear perspective. Then the amygdala starts to take over instead of being in the back seat, and the alarm is running the show. which means that you have no frustration tolerance. You go from 0 to 100 in a second. You feel rage over things that normally wouldn't even bother you. You're going to cry for no reason. You are going to completely shut down when someone asks you for one more thing. And you're going to have all of these weird mystery symptoms because your body is physically reacting, right? The headaches, the nausea, the joint pain, muscle pain, chest tightness, the palpitations. You can't breathe. And what most people don't understand is that your cup is not going to just fill up from one big thing. It fills from stacking those small things all day long. So 7 a.m., you wake up, you slept poorly, 10% goes into your cup. Okay, 7:15, you can't find your keys, another 10%. 7:30, someone cuts you off in traffic, another 10%. 7:45, your work email before you even get to the office, another 15%. 8 a.m., kids are fussing about breakfast, it was burnt toast, or they didn't like that flavor of jelly or jam, another 20%. Then you are at 95% before your day even really starts. And so when you do spill your coffee at 8:30, you're going to have a complete meltdown because you're not overreacting. That's just math, right? Your nervous system literally has no capacity left. So I know some of you are watching this and you're thinking, well, other people handle stress better than me, so what's wrong with me? If you are a woman who has been carrying everyone and everything for years, your cup is going to fill up faster and it is going to empty slower than most people's cups. Okay? Because you are not just managing your own stress, you are managing everyone else's emotions, you are managing their schedules, you're managing their needs, their problems, you're making 47 decisions before breakfast, you're carrying all of this invisible labor that no one else even sees, you are tracking 1,000 details in your head at all times, you are expected to handle everything. And not just handle everything, but handle everything with a smile, right? And, without even complaining. So mom, wife, employee, daughter, friend, volunteer, church leader, every single role has expectations, and those expectations are different. And every single role has demands. And so by the time someone says, well, hey, what's for dinner? Your cup isn't just full, right? It's been overflowing for months, maybe even years, maybe even decades. And I had a client who threw her phone across the room when it dinged one more time. And afterwards, she felt terrible. She felt like she was out of control. She was so upset and she felt like she was broken. But when we took a step back and we started to look at her life, she had been managing a sick parent. She was managing a struggling kid with addictions, a demanding job, multiple church commitments for 8 months straight. And her cup was so full for so long, she didn't even remember what having a margin felt like. And so the phone was not really the problem, right? It was the thousandth thing that day that went into her cup and made it overflow. And so her nervous system finally just said, there's no more. I can't handle anymore. That's it. So, does that sound familiar to you? If it does, tell me down below. Let us know. So, what do we do? What do we do about this when we are so overwhelmed and our nervous systems are so stressed and dysregulated? Because I know you've probably been told, well, just don't let it bother you. Just let it go. Don't worry about it. Just be patient or count to 10 before you react. And yes, those things are very good. Yes, they are beneficial. And it does work for some people, but when your cup is already overflowing, it's not going to work. You cannot access patience when your nervous system is maxed out, and you can't think rationally when your prefrontal cortex is offline because that amygdala is the one running the show at that point. So what actually helps is figuring out how to shut this guy off and turn this one back on. So you have to empty your cup throughout the day before you hit overflow. Okay? So one of the simplest things that you can do throughout your day is to have these little bitty releases. So after every single hard conversation, shake it out, right? If you can just shake it out, shake your hands out for 30 seconds. That's a good somatic practice. Okay. After every transition, if you're I remember going from class to class, right? We had about an hour in every class and we'd transition to another classroom. Every single one, do a little bit of deep breathing for 60 seconds. After you complete a task on your to-do list, roll your shoulders, do some circles with your neck, do some light stretching, open up the chest. Okay, these take 30 to 60 seconds, but they prevent that water or tea from overflowing, right? From accumulating so much that just goes everywhere. And so you're emptying a little bit at a time so you don't hit that overflow. We also need to find out what fills your cup specifically the fastest. So for most of the women that I work with, it's notifications, right? It's other people's emotions, it's constant decision making, or it's noise. So can you reduce any of those even by 10%? Can you turn off some background noise or some music or something that's buzzing constantly? Can you put your phone in do not disturb mode for an hour, for 2 hours, or mute certain conversations or certain people? Can you step away from certain people whose emotions are very overwhelming? Say no to somebody or something this week. Ask your partner to be the one to decide dinner Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you pick Tuesday, Thursday, right? So we're not trying to completely eradicate all of the stress. We're just trying to reduce the incoming water so your cup is filling up more slowly. And we also want to start doing some daily nervous system resets. So 5 minutes every single day is absolutely non-negotiable. Okay, so not after your cup is overflowing, but before. This is a preventative step. Okay, it's not damage control at this point. So we want to pick one thing. Maybe it's breathing exercises. Maybe it's EFT tapping. Maybe it's shaking. Maybe it's lying down in complete silence. Do it before the kids get home. Do it before you start dinner, before you go to bed, whenever you can fit it into your day, but it has to happen as a preventative measure. Because you cannot handle all of this stress. Like your nervous system has a max capacity for a reason. Okay, so you can handle the dish on the counter if your cup is at 50%. You can't handle anything when your cup is at 95. Okay, the goal is not to be tougher, stronger, handle more. The goal is to have margin again, to have a better baseline again. Okay. So here's what I want you to try this week. We're going to have a cup check-in, okay? So 3 times a day, morning, midday, and evening, just stop and ask yourself, well, how full is my cup right now? Are we at 45, 50%? Figure out where you are. Note it down. Write it down on your phone. Write it down on a piece of paper, whatever. If you are at 50% or below, you're good. You're solid. You have capacity. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay. If you are at 70%, yellow flag. Okay. Take a 2-minute break right then and there. Breathe, shake it out, step outside, go for a 5-minute walk, do something that is going to help release some of that water and give you a little more capacity. Okay. If you are at 90%, that is a red flag. So stop. Do not pass go. Do a 5 to 10 minute reset before you do anything else. Okay. So why does this even work? Because you are catching the overflow before it's going everywhere, before you're having to grab all of the towels in the house and try to clean up all of the mess, right? You're giving yourself permission to empty the cup before it starts to spill over on everyone else, everywhere into your life. So I did have a client who started doing this recently, and she realized she was hitting that 90% mark by like 10, 11 a.m. on most days. And so what we started doing is she started to take these 2-minute breaks every time she started hitting that 70% mark. Okay. So within a couple weeks, she stopped screaming at her kids over the small things. She stopped fussing at her husband about the dishes because that was his biggest issue, right? Well, one of them. And it's not because she suddenly became more patient or she just didn't care. It was because she was starting to rebuild her capacity and learn how to take some of that stress off of her own plate. So I want to encourage you today and remind you that you are not overreacting to these small things, okay? You're having a very completely normal reaction to a nervous system that's been operating at that maximum capacity for way too long. So the solution is not necessarily to be stronger or to be tougher or to be more patient, but the solution is to empty that cup before it overflows. Okay, so that small trigger, whether it's the dishes, the laundry, the whining, the texts and the notifications, or the touch, that is not the root problem, right? Your brain might think, well, that's the problem in the moment, but it really isn't. If you look deeper, the lack of margin is truly the problem. Okay, and margin is something that can be restored, right? So try that cup check-in this week. Try it 3 times a day and see what happens. And if you're realizing that your cup has been overflowing for months or for years or for decades, and you want actual support, one-on-one support, learning how to empty it, having someone walk with you, that is exactly what we do in our coaching and in our program. So all of that will be linked in the description for you if you are looking for deeper support. And we're just going to finish this off. One deep breath together, hand on your heart, hand on your belly, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And just shake it out and let all of that go, okay? You're not too sensitive. Your nervous system's just a little overwhelmed. It's had a lot going on, okay? You're just too full. And we can let some of that go, all right? I'll see you guys in the next one.